Alright, here. How do we get started? Like this, I guess. Hello, everyone. My name is James Kane, and welcome to my Rambly podcast. I've just been out doing some chores, minding my own business, doing my daily thing down here in the grayscale Brighton in the southern UK on the 17th of May. And I thought, you know what? Why not boot up the old blue microphone and ramble on about some things that I've been pondering in my mind. Obviously nothing too intellectual or too gripping, if I'm honest. No, please listen. No. So I'm going to start a little weekly rambly podcast just by myself, just going over some things, maybe, pop culture, maybe some things that I've been doing, just this, that and the other. Been a long time fan of Bill Burr, so I love his format of his podcast. So thought I'd rip it off and try and do my own version. So what have I been up to recently? Well, really recently, I've just finished rewatching, and as I'm sure everyone in the planet, I believe, has watched it by now, Game of Thrones, Season 8, Episode 5. Rewatched it for the second time because the first time I watched it, how do I describe it? I think I was a bit too, not emotional, but I was a bit overwhelmed by what was happening. Partly because, if you try and break down what actually happened in that... Oh, I'm going to open some Tupperware. Oh, that probably sounded horrible. If you actually depackage what happened in that episode, there was a whole fuck ton of stuff that happened. So at the beginning, it starts off, you got your boy Varys, old Spider Boy. He's ratting out Jon Snow, essentially. He's telling Westeros that he's the rightful heir because Rhaegar and Lyanna, something like that. They had him as a kiddo. They gave birth to him as a baby. And he's basically ratting him out to all the major houses to try and diminish Daenerys', I guess, right to the throne. And he gets caught in the act, or he gets ratted out at least, because he goes and confides in Jon Snow, and he gives the old, the coin has been flipped. Whenever a Targaryen is born, the gods flip a coin. Heads, great. Tails, you're fucked. And Dany's one is apparently landed on the table, but it's still spinning until the second to last episode in the whole saga. But I'm not bitter or anything. More on that later. And he basically thinks that he's going to hedge his bets and he's going to go with your boy Jon Snow. Jon's not too keen about that. Jon's a man of honor, and he's pledged himself to House Targaryen under Daenerys. Jon Snow, he's honorable to a fault. He's kind of dumb in that way. If you honor, and I guess it's good to be honorable in your day-to-day life. It's good to be honorable. If you're in that realm, but I don't know, Jon Snow, you do it a little bit too much, to the point where if you just threw a couple of white lies in there, it would work out a little bit better for everyone. But he straight out says to Varys, no, not happening, son. I'm not happy with that. Tyrion is overlooking all of this with a snide face, and essentially goes and tells Daenerys. Daenerys roasts old Varys in the first 20 minutes of the show. Well, I guess there's only 2 episodes left. What's left for his character arc? What, is he going to live happily ever after in whatever's left after the siege of King's Landing? I don't know. Either way, they kill him off. Goodbye. Was he in episode 1? I don't actually know, but he's been in a long ass time. I'm pretty sure he was in episode 1, season 1. So I quite liked his character. He had a deep story in the books. It's a little bit more. Well, I hope they go into it a little bit more. But they talk about how because he's a eunuch, when his nuts and his penis was cut off, his penisius was cut off, they were chucked into the fire by a witch or some sort of worshipper of the Lord of the Light. And apparently the flames whispered something to him, something that was sort of alluded to in the first few seasons, really. But they don't really go back on that. And that's a bit of a common theme with Game of Thrones, which I think a lot of people have been voicing their opinions about, that essentially they just sort of, we've had 7 seasons of whispers and shadows and prophecies, and George R.R. Martin he describes himself as a gardener writer, so he plants seeds everywhere, they all grow together, they intertwine, and grows into this massive, basically, I guess, forest of a story. But the writers of the TV show aren't quite that good, and I don't know if it's probably because it can't translate to TV very well. But I just don't feel like they set up a lot of these main events in the episode. So I'm going to try not to ramble too much about Varys, although I already have for about 3 minutes. Yeah, Varys is dead. Rip. He gets roasted by Drogon. Yeah, fair enough. There's 2 episodes left. People have got to start dying. Rip. Goodbye, young Sir Varys. And then the rest of the episode is essentially... Well, actually, before that, you've got one other nice scene where... So in episode 4... at the end, you see Jaime Lannister, after he's just boned Brienne of Tarth, he leaves Winterfell, and he's all, "Oh man, I love Cersei. I'm gonna go back to her." When I first watched that, it sort of annoyed me a little bit. I was like, "Come on, Jaime, you're not that stupid." But then, in the end, it does sort of make sense, because unconditional love is a thing, and she is his sister, and they have incest relations, so that's like ×2 unconditional love. So, I guess it makes sense that he went back to her. If you think about it like that, some people do. Some people's husbands or spouses go to prison for murder, and the partner stays with them. So, on reflection, I understand that. That's fair enough. Jaime can go back to Cersei, in my opinion. That does make sense. It does make the whole Brienne of Tarth, sexual bit a bit fan servicey and redundant now. That clearly was just to please the fans, which not really. That things like that didn't really happen in the previous seasons, especially when George R.R. Martin's script or writing was the main plot, the main driver of the plot. So yeah, that sort of annoyed me. But anyway, Jaime Lannister, after he left, he got caught by some guards or some scouts or some shit because he didn't take his golden arm off. And he says, "Cersei always said that I was the dumbest Lannister." As Tyrion walks in the tent and asks him why didn't he take off his hand, which is quite funny. You would though, wouldn't you? If you got a golden hand, you just put a glove on it, dude. Leather glove. I'm sure there's leather gloves laying around. He's just had the Battle of Winterfell. There's probably armor and bloody stuff everywhere. Just pick up a glove, dude. I only need one, really. But anyway, I'm not bitter. But yeah. Tyrion basically releases him and says, they have a really nice scene, actually, one of the more actual emotional points that make sense in the episode, where Tyrion says, "Goodbye, my brother. You are my friend. You have been the one. You have been the one for me." Well, no, he says, "I wouldn't have survived my childhood without you. You're, thank you, brother. You're my boy. I'm going to release you, repay the favor for when he released him. Back in season, what was that, like 3 or something? Just before he killed Tywin. So yeah, that bit was good. So Jaime, they embrace, and Tyrion's crying, and it's, in the back of your mind, you're like, this is quite emotional. This is definitely the last time they're going to see each other. And it is. But more on that later. So yeah, and then Jaime off screen, but he escapes from the tent guarded by the Unsullied, who apparently just... you can do that. They must have had the prisoner tent on the very outskirts of their war camp, or let's not go into too much detail because the TV writers definitely didn't. So I guess, but yeah, I enjoyed that bit. And then the rest of the episode is pretty much the siege of King's Landing. So you got the Golden Company lined up outside. So let's set the scene. So you picture King's Landing. You got the main gates. Outside, you've got how many columns? Was there about 8 columns of about 8 men deep of the Golden Company? Now, in the books, the Golden Company, they're a bit more included. They do have a bit more of a backstory. You've got Jorah Mormont, who used to work for them, and there's a big theory that maybe if Jorah was... Well, in the books, because Jorah hasn't died in the books, but will the Golden Company betray Cersei in the book? And because Jorah Mormont was quite high up in that order. But obviously Jorah died in episode 3, so he's not there to do that. Well, I was describing the defences, wasn't I? My bad. So we got the gates, the main gates of King's Landing, with the Golden Company all outside. Ballistas stationed along the wall upon the turrets. Archers between all the crenellations along the wall. It looks like a pretty solid defense if we were talking standard medieval siege tactics. There's a bit of a medieval nerd who likes reading about sieges and crap. It looked quite good. Scorpions were a bit unbelievable, but hey, this is fantasy. Scorpions were a thing in real life. Okay, I'll take that. Now, in the bay that the gate looks over, you've got the Iron Fleet. Actually, no, the gate doesn't look over, does it? So you got let's say that the gate is facing the north, and then to the south in the bay, you've got the Iron Fleet that is helmed by not your boy because he's a prick, but what's his name? Frick on a stick. See, this is it. I can't even remember one of the main guys' names because I suck. And because he's probably my least favourite character. But I think they did that deliberately to make you hate him. I am Fleet Commander. What's his name? Isn't it Euron or something like that? I'm pretty sure it's Euron Greyjoy. Let's check. Luckily I do this by the computer. Euron Greyjoy. Yeah, there we go. Euron Greyjoy. So Euron Greyjoy is chilling in the bay with about what? You don't really see the whole scale of the fleet, but let's say 40 boats with about 20 of them have also got ballistas on them. Or scorpions, sorry, not ballistas. So, the defense looks kind of good because we know that Daenerys doesn't have a fleet after they all got fucked up in episode 4 after they just bounded into that castle and didn't send a single scout boat. That's where the second dragon died. I'm not going to focus too much on that episode because otherwise I'll just be ranting for ages. So, the defenses look kind of good. The bay is locked down. The gate and the walls are heavily armed. The Lannisters are ready. And they're maybe outlast this siege. So you see sort of the Northmen, the remaining Unsullied, the remaining Dothraki, and basically all of Jon Snow's and Daenerys' troops. They're all really, really close to the wall of King's Landing. Apparently archers and ballistas can't shoot more than... It's probably less than 500 meters. Maybe I might be exaggerating. But if you watch that episode, there's a shot where everyone's sort of camping about half an hour into the... I'll see if I can get a clip of it. And that you can see the wall, and it's quite it's quite apparent that it's within shot. If I was Cersei, I wouldn't let them camp there. I'd be sending, flame arrows onto their tents. I'd be ballistering them or scorpioning them. But anyway, let's not get bogged down in the lazy writing. But it's not lazy, it's just they have to move this thing along quickly now because they've got, 2 hours and 40 minutes to wrap it all up at the start of episode 5. So things have got to happen quick. And speaking of quick, Daenerys comes out of nowhere not out of nowhere. She's sort of hidden by the clouds for a bit. And she swoops down, and within about 3 minutes of screen time, she's destroyed the Iron Fleet. She does quite a good maneuver where she starts high, and then she swoops down, and her dragon's claws are literally like dragging along the water. That's how low she is. The scorpions all fire. She shoots up to dodge them all. Boom, the scorpions are exposed. They got to reload and, change their angle. And in that time, she manages to take out basically all 40 boats with all the scorpions. Job done. Iron Fleet gone within the first 5 minutes of the siege. Kind of lame because, again, if you're a book wanker like myself, you know that Euron Greyjoy has got many, many weapons. He's got a horn that can apparently bend a dragon to his will. That didn't even show up in the film. He is basically Captain Jack Sparrow in the books. He's mysterious. He's kind of magical. He has his own red woman on his boat. He wants to become like a god basically with superpowers, and he wants to become like a supernatural being essentially in the books. But none of that is discussed in the TV show. He's just a semi-drunk all the time kind of cheeky motherfucker that. Hey, whatever. They gotta cut some corners somewhere. But yeah, so Iron Fleet is gone. So after she's fucked up the Iron Fleet, she goes straight onto the wall and starts taking out these battlements with all the scorpions. She starts roasting them one at a time. She basically strafes along the wall, and takes them all out, and they essentially. Oh, it's so shit, guys. It's fucking terrible, man. In the first few episodes, when you see the scorpions, you're led to believe that, fuck, if one of these hits the dragons, they're going to be seriously screwed. And these scorpions are easy to operate. You've got Bronn on the first real battle. That one where the Lannisters are taking that supply chain back to the Red Keep. There's one scorpion and it manages to hit the dragon. Despite it, again, rambling, going back to the books. In the books, they say quite clearly that they had scorpions back in the day when Rhaegar was around, but they couldn't penetrate because dragon scales. If you're a fantasy wanker like me, you know that a dragon is essentially, you can't penetrate a dragon with an arrow. Dragons laugh that shit off. The way that they killed them in the books is that their scorpion lucky shot hit the dragon in the eye, which is one of its only weak spots. So that, as a fantasy nerd, that I like that. It ticks the box. It's a clever way, fluky shot, kind of like The Hobbit with Smaug, where there's the one scale that you got to get the shot. Bit cheesy, but hey, it's fantasy. You got to have a bit of that sprinkled in there, but not in the books. Not in the TV show apparently. Until this episode, where every ballista operator, every scorpion operator is a fucking moron, can't hit shit. And within about 20 minutes TV, maybe even less than that, 15 minutes, every scorpion is wiped off the wall. So Dany has got... Oh, and also, while this is happening, after she's taken out all the scorpions and ballistas, she takes out the main gate that the Golden Company were guarding and roasts the Golden Company. I don't think the Golden Company get a single kill. I saw a great meme where that awkward moment when Samwell Tarly has more kills than the entire Golden Company, because they just get mowed down. And so when she explodes the gate, the main wall gate, she comes from the inside of the keep, so it blows outwards. So they're not really expecting it, and then she strafes around and mops up the rest of them on her dragon, Daenerys. So Golden Company's essentially stuck. They've been this ominous threat that, they've gone over to Essos to get, Essos, whatever it's fucking called, to get the Golden Company. They've come on the boats, dun 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 dun. Well, they're dealt with in about 5 minutes. I didn't see them kill anything. So that's basically the signal for the Unsullied. We'll call them the Allies, although they're not really the Allies in this one. They're not very friendly. You've got... So the Unsullied, Northmen, and the rest of the Unsullied, Dothraki, they charge into the breached wall now that Daenerys has just blown apart for everyone. And they start basically razing the city. So previously, the reason that Tyrion had let Jaime out of his prison was because he sort of said to him, dude, there's a chance that we can... save the city, or save the people of the city. I need you to get into the city, start ringing the bells. That will be the warning, or the sign, the beacon that it's all good. Everyone surrendered. We'll you can drop your weapons. We'll just take you all prisoner, whatever. Punish the commanders, and then probably let the main majority of the people just go about their business. The soldiers can maybe be incorporated into the other armies, further strengthening everyone, building some nice bonds. But no. So the bells get rung, while Daenerys is sort of sat on her dragon on the wall, sort of just chilling, surveying the area. In her mind, this is victory. The bells of surrender are chiming. Scorpions everywhere are smouldering. The fleet is sinking in the bay. But no, she snaps at this point. This is her moment, essentially. This is her Mad King moment, where she, as the writers said in the behind the scenes episode, the half-an-hour HBO thing, that it was a hollow victory. It wasn't what it cracked up to be. She thought it was going to be amazing, and she was going to love the result of this, and then it was going to fulfill her. But no, it's a hollow victory, as the saying goes. So she decides to roast the whole city. Oh God, it was... I have issues with it because a lot of people online, because everyone on Twitter has been crying about this and signing petitions to have it reshot and all this rubbish. The people, and then you get the smug pricks, as I'll refer to them, who are like, "Oh, guys, if you look over the past 7 seasons or 8 seasons, you can see that Daenerys has been on a warpath, killing. You've got the warlords of the Dothraki, you've got the slave owners of what was the name? Essos or Dragon's Bay, whatever it was called now. You've got the Tarleys, da da da." The way that I see it is that you could, if you were not a warlord, but if you were a king or a queen and you were trying to take over an area, would you want to take care or kill essentially 50 warlords who are going to challenge your reign? Yes, they're warlords. Their very name means that they're going to conspire against you. Essentially, they're a tribal Genghis Khan style. Strength is power. The strength of my arm versus strength of your arm. If you're a female, granted with dragons, then you're going to have people piping up all the time. So I understand that. I could reconcile that in my head. I could say, yeah, I'd kill them if I were her. I've killed all the leaders. Now all the insider follow me because they respect strength, and I killed your leader. Therefore, you are mine. Cool, totally get that. Killing the slave owners, bit weird the way she does it with the crucifixions and that. But hey, she's the new ruler. She needs to take the old rulers who were cruel to the citizens, and she needs to make examples so that the citizens can say, "Oh, you're for me." She wins over the people, literally. But here she snaps and she murders a load of people. And they're literally children and families and, bakers and mothers and house dwellers and, potters and stuff like this. They're not military targets. And when I mean she snaps, the bells ring and she has like it sort of zooms in on her while she's perched on top of the dragon. And she has like a who farted moment where she's putting that disgusted face of like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. And then she proceeds for the rest of the episode. You don't see her for the rest of the episode. You just see the dragon from you're on the street most of the time. You just see the dragon. You know how if you're mowing your lawn, you go up and down and you make lines and you make it like a pattern? She essentially does that through King's Landing, but with a dragon. And she kills essentially... We're told earlier in previous episodes that there's 1 million civilians in King's Landing. I mean, what? Being conservative, did she kill a third? 300,000 people? What? I just don't understand that, because granted, people are saying that all of her advisors and all of her friends are gone and da-da-da-da. But even if they were still alive, right, they wouldn't be on the battlefield. They wouldn't be sat on the dragon with her being like, "Oh, Daenerys, this is a bad idea." This would have to still be her mind, her decision. And she goes full Mad King, guys. She does it. She lights up the city. She destroys the whole of the Red Keep, I think. I think you see it crumble. You at least see the foundations crumble later on that I'll go into. It's kind of messy. I didn't like it. She's gone full Mad Queen now, so the next episode it's going to be Jon Snow. There's a few moments where Grey Worm has like a little back and forth not back and forth, but has like a couple of snide looks at Jon Snow and stuff like this. And you can tell that Jon's going to have to step up, and Grey Worm's he's going to go back to his robotic, unsullied ways again and protect Daenerys. So, I don't know. I don't really understand that bit. Well, I do understand it. I just don't. The decision path, I can't follow it. It's too drastic of a change from everything else that I've seen. She's never killed innocents on that massive a scale. But hey, she went full Mad King, I guess. So while she's mowing her lawn, as I described earlier in King's Landing, one cool thing is that we're told a lot of seasons ago that the Mad King laid caches of wildfire everywhere because he was going to detonate them somehow. Apparently there's fuses in Game of Thrones, but I don't know, he was going to detonate them all somehow and then kill tens of thousands. Well, while she's doing that, you see these caches go up. So you've got the red fire, the classic fire of dragons going off, and then you've got this green fire coming up as well, which I thought was quite cool. That was a nice little nod to people that have been paying attention. I like that. That was cool. So the keep falls, and before the keep actually falls, you've got Cersei throughout the episode. She starts off her smug prick self, pulling her best "I want to see your manager" face. At the start, she's got a mountain behind her. She's got Qyburn, being Qyburn in the background. And as as what I've described sort of happens, she just breaks down, dude, to the point where Qyburn's like, the Unsullied. I suppose that the King's Landing is made up of many sort of. You got a couple of outer Baileys, or if that's what you want to call them, and then you've got the gates of the Red Keep. And the Unsullied are at the gates of the Red Keep at this point, so they've sieged several levels into the city. So the city's gone. The city's lost at this point. And she decides that she's going to go downstairs for some reason. I guess so that because Daenerys has destroyed a few turrets and spires around the King's Landing, or the actual castle, the Red Keep. So she decides to go down. As she's going down the stairs of her spire, old Houndy Boy turns up. He pops up a few times earlier in the episode. He has a nice little moment with Arya where he tells her that she basically should run because the whole city's falling around her. If you stay with me here in King's Landing, because as you know, at the end of the last episode they were making their way to King's Landing. If you stay here with me, you're going to die. And look at me. I'm a monster. I'm the Hound. Half my face is burnt. All I seek is revenge. If all you seek is revenge, you're going to be just like me, and you don't want to be this. And that's quite a cool moment. She thanks him. They separate, and the rest of the episode Arya is basically just playing dodgems around the town, just bumping into people, being saved. We'll touch on that later. But the Hound, he meets them as they're coming down the stairs. He takes out most of the King's Guard, or Queen's Guard, and then he's just left with his brother, Gregor Clegane, or the undead zombie mountain at this point. Or what's it, Maxwell the Strong, is it? Or Gregor? There's something the Strong in the books, I can't remember. I need to read those again. So he meets them on the stairs, and it's finally Clegane Bowl, the big fan service thing. This was good because everyone wanted this, and it was good. So they fight on the stairs. The Hound, it starts off, the Hound and Gregor go back and forth, the classic clang, 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 clang with the swords and everything. The Mountain's helmet gets chucked off and you see his horrible zombie face. He looked like a fat Varys. I thought was quite funny. I don't know if anyone else picked up on that, but he looked just like Varys, or Varys, however you want to say it. And so the Hound, they're clanging back and forth. He plunges his sword straight into the chest, I suppose where the heart would be on the Mountain, and the Mountain just sort of gives him his best bitch please face, and just pulls the sword out like I don't know who I'm trying to compare that to, but he pulls the sword out of himself and he's all, bitch, that what you got. They go back and forth, and it ends up with the Hound with his back against the wall, with the Mountain with his hands around his throat, choking him out. And then he lifts him up, and then in true Mountain's fashion, he's going to do the Oberyn face smash. He starts digging his thumbs into his eyes, but then at the last moment, because reasons, the Hound remembers that he's got a dagger, which he pulls out and he stabs the Mountain in the eyeball. Again, the Mountain doesn't die because he's apparently invincible. So in a last-ditch effort, the Hound charges into the Mountain, and they both topple out of the wall. There's one shot of the wall that it just looks like fucking styrofoam blocks. It's hilarious. It's just you'll probably know it. It's the one where the light's shining through it, and it looks like the shittiest, tackiest wall. I found that quite funny. But yeah, they plunge out of the tower, and they fall to their deaths. At what assumed deaths. They fall a good 100, 200 feet and fall into a fire pit. So the Hound's definitely dead. The Mountain, I assume, is dead because he'll be in several pieces by the time he lands on the floor. So he's dead, unless he's now 5 independent mountains. Like the hands, the feet wouldn't be able to. They could hop, maybe, but you know what I mean. So they're dead. He's dead. Then you got, what else have you got? You got, like I said, you got Arya after she breaks off from the Hound, just sort of wandering around, being overwhelmed by the dragon, the destruction of the dragon and the people. She almost gets stampeded at one point. And there's a bit where she's been bouncing around the city for a while, and she ends up in a house with about, 20, 30 people that are just like, they're women, children, and non-military men. And Arya's like, we can't stay in here for some reason, although it's a house that no one's, there's no bad guys here. She's like, we need to get back out in the streets, guys. It's safe out in the streets. As soon as she encourages everyone to go out in the street, they all get fucking slaughtered. Like, three Dothraki turn up exactly as they come out the door, and they're just there slaying them all. They're unarmed civilians, so they all get murdered. And there's like a wife, a mother and a child that Arya sort of is stuck with or around for about 10 minutes in the show. They die. As soon as Arya leaves the house, this Dothraki just smashes the mum round the face. She collapses. The child goes up to, oh, mummy, no. And then the dragon comes along that street and melts everyone. So, good effort, Arya. Granted, they probably would have died anyway, but I don't know. I feel like staying inside and in a safe space is better than being out on the street with horse warlords with two massive swords. I don't know. What do I know? I'm just some nerd chatting shit on the internet. So then what else happens? So when the Mountain and the Hound meet, obviously Cersei's there and Qyburn's there. The Mountain kills Qyburn by just shoving him against the wall. His head smashes on the wall like scrambled eggs. And then Cersei sort of continues down to the the map room that you see that she gets painted in season 7. She's in there where it all began, the big war began, and it's all collapsing, and she's on her own, and she looks very, very. She's not the I want to see your manager person anymore. She's a scared woman on her own in a collapsing castle. Scary. And last minute, you see Jaime. He turns up after facing. Oh yeah, I forgot about the worst bit. No, not the worst bit. The worst bit's Dany turning, I think. But yeah, Euron Greyjoy turns up on the beach. Oh right, I forgot to. When Tyrion frees his brother, he says there's a secret way into the Red Keep. Don't tell Arya, because she could just go and kill Cersei, but we're not worried about that. If you go into that secret exit, you can tell Cersei that you can escape because you're dead. You can go and get Cersei and leave on a dinghy and go and live in Essos or something, Pentos, whatever. So Jaime arrives at this secret entrance to go up into the keep, and Euron turns up at the exact same time. What a horribly written coincidence. And they have a fight, and Euron stabs Jaime twice, which you're meant to care about, but because plot armor, he's fine. Euron gets stabbed in the chest and then looks at the camera and breaks the fourth wall and says, I'm the man who killed Jaime Lannister, which I don't know why he did that. Is it a nod to him being a bit paranormal and a bit magical, that he can see the viewer? But he looks at the camera and says a line, which I don't know. I think that's dumb. But I respect it. Whatever. So Euron's dead. Rip. Jaime meets up with Cersei in the map room. They have a little hug and embrace, and they say, "Oh, we should escape. We should escape and go to Pentos. Come with me." Okay, let's do it. They go down into the dragon room. Where the skull is, where Qyburn originally uses the first ballista to shoot the skull of the dragon, and they were gonna escape on this dinghy. Well, when they get down to the keep, down to the basement of the keep, fucking the exit's collapsed in, mate. You're screwed. No way you're going home. So essentially they're stuck in the basement. They embrace and the room collapses around them. So that's Jaime and Cersei Lannister's death. Is a ceiling falls on them. Which I know that a lot of book people were annoyed because the prophecy is only really half explained. So, the witch, she has a prophecy. She tells Cersei she's going to have 3 kids. They're all going to die. Blood will be their, crowns will be their prize, and blood or something. I don't know. I need to read the books again. But essentially, the second part of the book of the prophecy, sorry, is that her younger brother is going to choke her to death. So apparently the ceiling is now a brother of her or something. I don't know. I know that prophecies are a bit sketchy in Game of Thrones. George R.R. Martin has said many times that the prophecy could be down to what the maester had drank that day. So if the maester was drunk, it's going to be a bit more, grand and silly and ridiculous. So I guess that prophecy was not true, or I don't know. There wasn't a maester in this one, to be fair. It was a witch, and every other prediction had come true. But whatever. The writers. Anyway, I'm going to stay on target and just sort of describe some more of the plot. So after that, you've got... What have you got after that? So that's essentially everything. Dany's mopping up the rest of the town. Jon Snow, at some point, starts to sort of feel like, wait a minute, this isn't right. Well, everyone does. They sort of feel like this isn't right. Apart from Grey Worm, he's pretty happy with the way things are transpiring. But Jon basically calls for a retreat. He says, Dany's just she's raising this city at this point. It's not a siege. She's raising it. She's leveling it to the ground. We need to get the fuck out of here before we get crushed. So everyone sort of retreats out of there. Dany continues to just go back and forth, setting fire to innocent children. Good times. And that's essentially it. At the end, Arya meets a white horse because apparently we're getting biblical now, and she's death. What's the quote? I saw... I don't know. I'm not going to even pretend like I've read the Bible, but essentially, death rides a white horse. So that's the imagery, and apparently Ned Stark rides a white horse at some point. So I don't know. The horse has plot armor as well, and he survived the whole siege, the whole barbecue fest, and Arya escapes. So that was a bit of a rambly rundown of the plot. I didn't really expect to do that. I just was going to give my overview, but that was 40 minutes of me rambling. So overall, I don't know how to put it. As a TV watcher who likes TV and likes to be entertained and likes to turn my brain off and just watch mindless garbage, it was great. It looked cool. Whatever. I got to see a dragon destroy a city. As a fantasy nerd, that was cool. I liked it. Some of the shots were awesome. But as a Game of Thrones fan, I thought it was probably one of the worst episodes yet, because so many character arcs are just dashed against the wall and pissed up the wall. Dany turns evil because I guess I don't know why. I guess all of her advisors... Well, people can speculate on this, and maybe they'll tell us in the last episode her actual reasoning behind it, but I guess they'd killed 2 of her dragons. They'd killed Missandei. Cersei was sort of layering her on a bit, and I guess that's the justification, guys. That's why the Mad King exists. The Mad Queen exists. I think it would have been a lot better if... Is it Viserion, the second dragon that died by Euron in the boat scene last episode? If that dragon was still alive, even if it was wounded, I think if they'd rang the bells and then there's like a few scorpion ballistas left, if then the dragon died, or that's when the Mountain executes Missandei in front of everyone, that would make sense. That would, that could trigger someone so much that it just snaps their mind, Thanos style, and she thinks, fuck you, I'm burning half the city. But no, there's no real catalyst for this apart from the fact that victory wasn't enough. So because the victory wasn't enough, I need to kill innocents or what? There's a quote later that earlier, where it's like they think our mercy is our weakness when it's our strength. Well, that was all pissed up against the wall, guys. I don't know. It sort of pissed me off really. That whole episode. I've watched it twice now, and the turning point of Dany just seemed even more ridiculous on the second watching. The way she just becomes if it's a video game, yeah, she's, when, you enter a scene and there's just thousands of enemies, but yet the hero is just so much more stronger and he comes out on top. It's not believable, but it's a video game and you're like, oh, I had fun. I got to play this character. I got to interact with these things. I had fun. I'm going to justify it in my head. That's basically the power level that her and her dragon are at. When she's just going around killing all these ballistas, not one, there's not one shot where, maybe a bolt goes through the webbing of his wing, the dragon, and he's like, oh, and then, something, just give me something. Let the dragon be in some sort of adversity at some point. But no, Dany is just full god mode for that episode. She lays waste to everyone. Goodbye, bing bang, shkabang. Big bang, shkabang. That's a great phrase, guys. That's it. Game over. And then, again, the episode ends with Arya wandering off, and we're left to speculate what's going to happen. I've got no idea what's going to happen. Well, I've got a prediction. My prediction is that in the next episode, it's an hour and a half, I think, or an hour and 20 minutes again. So a lot's going to happen, but I think it's going to all boil down to Jon Snow versus Grey Worm, while Daenerys is like, don't fight, guys, or she's like, yeah, get him, Grey Worm, yeah, baby, or something. Jon's going to kill Grey Worm. The dragon's then going to look at Jon. Jon's going to get set on fire. But hey, Jon's a fucking Targaryen, right? Dragon, he ain't immune to fire. He's going to be there naked with the flaming sword in his hand, as the prophecy said. The prophecy's going to be fulfilled. And then he's going to stab Daenerys. Bittersweet ending, as they said. Jon's the rightful king. I don't know. Or something else. My other prediction, I had two thoughts that maybe something happens to the point where, and I hope this doesn't happen, but there was a leak that says that Bran becomes king, and they sort of set it up in previous episodes where they said that Bran doesn't want anything. He's just sort of a knowledge source, a database, what have you. So maybe he's going to be the new king, because he won't have a horrible opinion. He just knows the best way to go forward. Maybe he's going to become king, and Jon Snow is going to kill Daenerys again, but he's going to pull a Frodo on us at the end of Return of the King. He's going to give it the old, some wounds don't heal, guys. And then he's going to go and live with the wildlings up in the north, because Tormund said, you've got the north in you, not the shit north, the real north. So maybe, guys, we'll get the ghost pat on the head that we all wanted in that episode 3 or 4, whatever one it was. I don't know, guys. A lot can happen. It can go any way, as the writers have said. They like what's the phrase? They basically, once you've got an expectation of what's going to happen. So Jon Snow killing the Ice King, Night King, that was all set up. That's why Arya did it. They wanted to surprise us. Ooh, because 7 seasons of setting a plot and setting up secrets and little whispers of the prophecy, the ice and fire, the merging, the Starks and the Targaryens, the song of ice and fire. No, Arya kills it. So who knows what the fuck's going to happen? They could, I don't know, guys. It was good. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, obviously watch it. Don't not watch it. And don't sign a petition to ask for it to be reshot, alright? I saw a great tweet where someone said, don't tell anyone, but I'm doing marketing for adult diapers. And that was the petition. And that was great. Don't be a pussy, accept it, move on. It's a TV show. As a Star Wars fan, I'm used to my fucking childhood being ruined. So now, Game of Thrones, welcome to the world of disappointment that is those writers. And speaking of those writers, I don't know what their names are. I'm not going to pretend like I know what they are. What's their name? It's writers of Game of Thrones. It's Dan and something, isn't it? Dan Benioff and D.B. Weiss, or whatever his name is. They now have got a spin-off. A Star Wars, TV show. So they're going to piss that up the wall and ruin that even more, probably. Maybe it would make more sense in a Star Wars universe, because Star Wars always was a bit more cheesy, a bit more Disney, family and plot armor is established, and it's fine, because that's how it's written. That's why it works in Star Wars, that people survive, because that's what you expect. But Game of Thrones, that's not what we've come to expect, guys. We've come to expect that, if you're a hero and you say, I'm going to hold the wall here, I'm probably going to die, let's do it, I'll sacrifice myself, then you die. You don't survive by some miraculous dragon coming out of nowhere. You die. And that's why I think so many people are upset, because it doesn't follow the themes that have been set up for the last 7 seasons. And I know that a lot of people died. A lot of B characters died this episode. Who are the big ones? You got Varys, but he's a B character, I guess. Okay, the Lannisters, the Jaime and Cersei. That's the big one. That's the real big one. But there's only 1 episode left, so who gives a fuck? They're not going to be on TV for much longer anyway. They're basically, every character dies after this episode, as far as we're concerned, because we're not going to hear any more of them. But at least it would be a fitting way, and you could actually recommend it to people. I don't know. The way I described it was, I think I've already said it, but if you're just a TV fan and you want to glug a 2-litre Coke and have some popcorn and just have a good time with your friends, you're going to love it. It's going to be awesome. You're going to, your adrenaline's going to be going. You're going to be wondering the whole time who's going to live, who's going to die, as long as you haven't listened to this, because I just ruined it all. It's going to be great. But if you're a long-time fantasy fan and a long-time Game of Thrones writing style fan, you're gonna come away with, biting your bottom lip, guys. Like, hashtag not my Game of Thrones. That was my Game of Thrones ramble. Jesus, almost 50 minutes. I'm so sorry if that was boring. I hope that was entertaining. Just another nerd's little ramble about Game of Thrones. I hope you enjoyed it, guys. Maybe see you in the next one. Bye bye.